Hey, this is Dan, otherwise known as Solid Whetstone. I got a lot of responses from my forhire post, and I tried webcamming with everybody that I could, and I got through about a dozen people, and I realized that this is going to take forever. So one thing I noticed is there are a lot of the same things coming up. So I figured it would be make a little bit more sense for me to just bring up what those things were, get that information into your hands, and then if there's some fringe discussion we can have that isn't covered by this, at least maybe I've covered off on most of the bases. So this particular video is part 1 of 3. This will be discussion about your resume. Part 2 will be about your personal portfolio or website, and then part 3 will be about recruiters. And I'll blur, and talk about a few other things intermittently throughout those 3, but those are the 3 big touch points I want to hammer home, because if you get those 3 things right, you're well on your way to getting work. So this one's about the resume. So let's just jump right into it. Number 1, you need a resume. If you don't have a resume, it's time to write one. So now is the time. I did run into one person who hadn't written a resume at all. Let's talk about the major parts of the resume. You have a header, you have like an objective or an about me, something that, mission statement or focus or something. Then you have, depending on what your priority is, or what your strengths is, you might have skills, you might have experience, you might have like software knowledge and things like that. I guess that would probably go under skills. And you also have education. So let's talk about the header, though. The header is it's important. You don't have to go outside of the norm. I mean, all you need is your name in a legible size, city and state. You don't need the whole address. Some people will say that you do, but I don't think you do. Phone number is good. Email address. Make sure your email is something related to your name, like a brand. If you think about your name as a brand, don't use an email address that you used when you were young. It just didn't have any significant meaning, or it was like Hottie-Pink-Chick-69 at Yahoo or something like that. Don't use that. Just use your name. If you got to create a new email address, or if you got to buy a domain name and use me at domain, that's fine. But please be professional in that respect. And then a link to your portfolio, which we're going to talk about in step 2, or video 2. The next thing that I want to talk about is the mission statement, or you could call it, I guess, your objective, or a little bit about me or something. And the way I want you to think about this is like, imagine you're discussing yourself, and then you're standing in a circle, so then everything that's inside the circle is what I do, and then everything outside of the circle, which is what I want to do. So I might say I'm a bricklayer, and I'm an expert at laying down bricks and other kinds of construction work, and I want to be a senior foreman or something like that. And so by looking at that objective, I get a strong feeling, okay, this person's a bricklayer. I understand they also have proficiency in other kinds of construction, and then they have larger aspirations to be something different, or this is what the trajectory of the career is. So I get that picture. Recruiters and hiring managers all need to know that information. As far as after that, you can really position your next section based on what your strength is. Like, if your strength is your skills over your education, then move to your skills. If your strength is your work history, you've worked at a lot of great places and done a lot of cool things, put that next. Try to play to your strengths, because your resume might get thrown away before they finish it even. So do it that way. And then let's talk about each individual section. We'll start with skills. For skills, please put how long or how proficient you are at that skill. So if it's like bricklaying, you've done it for 5 years, or you are an intermediate, or you're mid-level, or junior level, or something like that. Tell me how good you are. So when I look at the skills section, I go, okay, this person is very good at this, has some weakness in that, but I get it, that's probably good enough for what I need, or that's exactly what I need, who knows. But be realistic, and just tell me how good you are with that. As far as the next section, maybe we'll discuss work history. A standard format like place you worked, the title or role that you had, how long you were there, what year to what year, or something like that, and then give me just some high-level highlights. How, what did you do while you were at that construction site? You excelled in these ways, and these were the successful outcomes of that role. And then just work your way back. Don't include things that aren't relevant. If you're a bricklayer, don't talk about the time that you worked at McDonald's or Walmart or something like that. Focus on the career relevant experience that you've had. When it comes to education, there's some fields that are not as important to have a whole lot of accolades as far as education is concerned. I mean, performance-based trades and things like that. Not so important. Things like medical, legal, you're definitely going to have a degree. So if you don't have one and you want to go into those, then you need to go get your education. Strongly recommend it. As far as having your degree, I mean, I don't have my degree, but I have two halves of two different degrees. I have half of a commercial art and half of a graphic design, and then I went into web design. So, back when I went to school, it was 2000, they didn't have really very many web design degrees, so kind of just, back in my day, we made do. So, when it comes to programming and things like that, I mean, if you're really good at programming, you may not need an education, but you better be good. I mean, you better be able to handle yourself. And then after that, some people like to include hobbies and things like that. I think that's kind of a waste, but I can understand how somebody would want to kind of bring their personality into the resume. But as me, last year I conducted something like 40 interviews trying to staff a front-end development team, and we staffed 4 people. So I didn't care a whole lot, like, if somebody put their hobbies or it's fine, you can do it. I mean, I don't think it'll really help you. Like, I'm looking for somebody who's going to fill that role. We've got a budget. We want to find out, who's the best candidate for the job. And if it's somebody who's really good, but fits the culture, but is not like super, exciting and fantastic. I mean, some companies will want to hire somebody who they could go out and drink with. Some companies have that philosophy, but I think most companies just want to know that you're a decent person, you're personable, you can do the job well, you're qualified, and things like that. So I'm going to wrap it up. 7.5 minutes. Nailed it. That's the resume. I would also say save out a PDF version of your resume. Don't let it get longer than 2 pages, please. If it's 1 page, that's fine. Make sure you save out a PDF, because that can, if you save it out as Word and send it to people, it can jack with the formatting. They can open it up and it could look the way you didn't intend it to look. So try to send it as a PDF. I know some job websites will say, no, upload it as a doc. So have your doc or docx handy, but when you're emailing it, send it as a PDF. Alright, next one, we're going to talk about your personal website.